Imagine a typical Wednesday evening in the heart of a bustling city. The lights twinkle, the traffic hums, and most people are heading home. But for 25-year-old Erin Cole, November 6, 2019, was far from typical. It was the last night anyone would see her. Erin was a bright, ambitious young professional working on the 32nd floor of the prestigious Hawthorne Plaza building. That evening, as the city wound down, she was still at her desk, pushing to meet a deadline. At 9:17 p.m., she sent a quick text to her coworker. A message that now feels heavy with unspoken premonition. Still finishing up. I'll take the late train. It was a simple, everyday communication, the kind we all send without a second thought. But for Erin, it was her last. Just 11 minutes later, at 9:28 p.m., the building's security cameras captured a pivotal moment. The footage shows Erin looking tired but determined, stepping into the elevator. She presses a button, the doors slide shut, and she begins her descent, or so everyone thought. This is where the story takes a sharp, inexplicable turn. The logical destination for anyone leaving the office is the ground floor, the lobby, the exit to the street. But Erin never made it there. The next piece of footage we have is from a different camera, one positioned on a floor rarely visited by office workers, the roof access floor. The camera captures the elevator doors opening and Erin stepping out. Why? Why would she go up instead of down? The rooftop of the Hawthorne Plaza wasn't a scenic garden or a trendy bar. It was a restricted area, home to HVAC units and communication antennae. There was no logical reason for an employee to be there after hours, especially not on a chilly November night. What was she doing? Did she forget something? What? Was she meeting someone? The questions began to pile up, each one more unsettling than the last. She was alone in the elevator, so it seems this was her decision. But the motive remains a complete mystery. For 35 minutes from 9:28 to 10:03 p.m., Erin's movements are a blank. There were no cameras in the stairwell leading directly to the roof, leaving a critical gap in the timeline. 35 minutes of unaccounted time, high above the city streets. And then, at precisely 10:03 p.m., something else strange happened. The entire Hawthorne Plaza building, all 45 stories of it, was plunged into darkness. Complete power outage. It's not just a flicker, but a sustained blackout that lasted for exactly 6 minutes. Building maintenance would later report no scheduled work, no tripped breakers, no logical explanation for the sudden loss of power. It was an anomaly, an island of darkness in a city of light. At 10:09 p.m., the power surged back on. The emergency lights clicked off, the hum of the building returned, and everything seemed to go back to normal. Except for one thing. Erin Cole was gone. The security camera on the roof access floor showed an empty hallway. The elevator was now back on its regular cycle. It was as if she had vanished into thin air during those 6 minutes of absolute darkness. The following morning, when Erin didn't show up for work and didn't answer her phone, her worried colleagues raised the alarm. A search of the building began. They checked her office, the break rooms, the parking garage. It was on the roof access floor, near the heavy door leading out to the rooftop itself, that a maintenance worker made a chilling discovery. Lying on the cold concrete floor was Erin's smartphone. Its screen was dark, but the flashlight function was still on, its battery drained, casting a faint, ghostly beam. It was as if she had dropped it in a hurry, its light a final, silent witness to her disappearance. Police were called, and a full-scale investigation was launched. They scoured every inch of the rooftop. There were no signs of a struggle, no footprints other than the maintenance staff's, no discarded items. The door to the roof was locked from the inside, as it should be. It could be opened from the stairwell without a key, but to get back in from the roof, you needed one. Had she gone out onto the roof and been unable to get back in? If so, where did she go? The building was surrounded by other skyscrapers, the drop a terrifying 45 stories. A thorough search of the surrounding streets and rooftops turned up nothing. Investigators dove into Erin's life, searching for any clue that could explain her bizarre final moments. They talked to her family, friends, and coworkers. Everyone described her as happy, stable, and responsible. She was excited about an upcoming promotion and had just booked a vacation with her sister. There was no indication of personal distress, no secret troubles that might have led her to run away or do something drastic. Her financial records were clean. Her social media activity was normal. She was, by all accounts, a young woman with a bright future, not someone on the verge of disappearing. The coworker who received her last text was questioned extensively. He confirmed they were working on a project together, but he had left around 7 p.m. He said Erin was a dedicated employee who often stayed late. Couldn't think of any reason she'd go to the roof. Was she meeting someone? Police checked her phone records and messages. There were no mysterious calls, no secret plans. Her last communication was that ordinary text message. 6-minute power outage became a central focus of the investigation. Was it a coincidence, or was it a crucial part of the puzzle? Electrical engineers were brought in. They determined the outage was specific to the Hawthorne Plaza and was on part of a larger city grid failure. They couldn't find evidence of manual tampering, but they couldn't rule it out either. 6 minutes. It's a short amount of time, but it's long enough. Long enough for someone to act under the cover of darkness. Could someone have orchestrated the blackout to facilitate her abduction? If so, how? And how did they get in and out of a secure high-rise building without being seen? The case went cold almost as quickly as it began. With no witnesses, no forensic evidence, and no clear motive, the police were stumped. The media frenzy eventually died down, but for Erin's family, the nightmare never ended. Every theory they considered led to a dead end. Did she meet with foul play? It's a strong possibility. Someone could have lured her to the roof, used the blackout to their advantage, and somehow spirited her away. But this theory requires an almost superhuman level of planning and execution. Getting an unwilling person out of that building undetected seems nearly impossible. Could she have chosen to disappear? Some have speculated she orchestrated the whole thing to start a new life, but this seems out of character. Why leave her phone? Why choose such a dramatic and risky method? And how could she have descended 45 floors and exited the building in the dark without being noticed once the power came back on? The story of Erin Cole remains one of the most baffling modern disappearances. It's a digital age mystery with a ghost in the machine's security footage that shows a beginning. It's a strange detour and then nothing. A final text message, a phone with its flashlight still trying to cut through the darkness. The Hawthorne Plaza building still stands, a silent monument to the night one of its own went to the roof and never came down. What happened in those 35 minutes of unknown time, and what transpired in those 6 minutes of darkness? We are left with only questions and the haunting image of a lone flashlight beam on a cold, empty floor. Thank you so much for watching. The details of this case are perplexing, and the lack of answers is truly heartbreaking for Erin's loved ones. What do you think happened? Share your theories respectfully in the comments below. If you found this story compelling, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more deep dives into fascinating mysteries. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the next one. The morning after Erin vanished, Detective Laura Bishop arrived at the silent, imposing skyscraper. The air was thick with unanswered questions, and the lingering scent of ozone from the supposed electrical short. The night guard, Ronald Graves, a man whose face was a roadmap of long, uneventful nights, recounted the blackout. An electrical short on the lower floors, he'd said, his voice flat. Happens, old building. But his story felt too neat, too rehearsed. Laura had a nose for neat stories. They were almost always hiding a mess. She pulled the maintenance logs. Page after page of routine checks, filter changes, and minor repairs. But for the night of the blackout, nothing. Not a single entry. No frantic calls for an electrician, no emergency repair requests. The silence in the logbook was louder than any alarm bell. If there was a genuine electrical short, the kind that plunges a 50-story building into darkness, someone would have been called. The building's protocol would demand it. But there was just ... nothing. This wasn't an accident. Laura felt it in her gut. She descended into the belly of the building, to the generator room. It was a cavern of concrete and steel, the air humming with latent power. The main control panel was a complex beast of switches, dials, and blinking lights. And there she found it. Single switch, flipped out of sequence. The log on the digital display was undeniable. At 10:02 p.m., just 60 seconds before the entire building went dark, someone had manually switched the power grid to its backup system. This wasn't a short circuit. It was a deliberate act. Someone had wanted the power to go out. Why stage a blackout? Laura's mind raced. To To bypass security? To create a window of opportunity? Her next stop was the security office, a small windowless room where a bank of monitors displayed the building's unblinking electronic eyes, or what was left of them. One screen was dead, black, the feed for the rooftop camera. An officer was already examining the connection point in a server rack. The verdict was swift and chilling. It wasn't unplugged, detective. It was cut. A clean, precise snip through the coaxial cable. A severed connection, a blind spot created with intention. The rooftop. What was on the rooftop? Laura walked the path Erin would have taken, from the lobby elevators up to the 45th floor. The office was an eerie time capsule. Papers were stacked neatly on desks. Computers hummed in sleep mode. Erin's workspace was just as she'd left it. Her chair was pushed in, her monitor dark. But her handbag and keys were gone. That detail snagged at Laura. If she was abducted, why would she take her keys? Or why would her abductor take them? It suggested she left willingly, at least at first. Then Laura saw it, splash of yellow against the muted gray of the desk. A sticky note. The handwriting was a hurried scrawl. Don't stay late. The alarms reset too slow. A potential clue? A warning? Laura's heart quickened. She tracked down Erin's closest coworker, a nervous young man named Alex. He recognized the note immediately. "Oh, that," he said, a dismissive wave in his voice. "She wrote that weeks ago. We had this weird elevator glitch where it got stuck between floors. The alarms took ages to reset. It was just a joke. A complaint about the building's ancient systems. A dead end? Or was it? The alarms reset too slow." Laura replayed the phrase in her mind. Maybe it wasn't about the elevators. Maybe it was about something else entirely. The building's security system. The blackout, the cut camera feed, the manual switch to backup power. It was all painting a picture of a meticulously planned event. The perpetrator knew the building's systems, its weaknesses. They knew how long the alarms took to reset after a power failure. This wasn't a random act. This was an operation. Laura returned to the generator room, the cut cable from the security office in an evidence bag. She looked again at the manual override switch. 10:02 p.m. she cross-referenced it with the building's entry logs. At 9:58 p.m., 4 minutes before the switch was flipped, a maintenance worker had swiped into the sub-basement. The name on the log? Ronald Graves, the night guard. The man with the neat, tidy story about a simple electrical short. He was sitting in the security office when Laura returned, looking bored. "Mr. Graves," she began, her voice calm. "You told me there was an electrical short. But the logs show you entered the generator room at 9:58 p.m. and manually activated the backup power at 10:02 p.m. Why would you do that?" Graves's composure finally cracked. His face paled, his eyes darting towards the exit. I was just running a diagnostic," he stammered. "Standard procedure." It was a weak lie, and they both knew it. "And the rooftop camera? Did your diagnostic also involve cutting the feed?" Laura pressed, her gaze unwavering. Graves started to sweat. He was a piece of the puzzle, but he wasn't the mastermind. He was a pawn, coerced or paid off. "Who were you working for, Ronald?" Laura asked, her tone softening slightly. "Who planned this? Who wanted Erin Miller to disappear?" While another officer took Graves into custody, Laura's mind was on the rooftop. The cut camera feed wasn't just about creating a blind spot. It was about hiding an exit. With the main power down and the rooftop camera disabled, someone could have landed a helicopter completely unseen. Erin could have been taken off that roof without anyone in the city even noticing. The missing bag and keys suddenly made a new kind of sense. Perhaps she was lured to the roof under a false pretense, thinking she was leaving for a meeting, a late-night rendezvous. But the note. The alarms reset too slow. It wasn't a complaint about elevators. It was a message. Laura pulled out the sticky note again, studying the looping handwriting.
Asterisk.
It wasn't a warning left asterisk for asterisk Erin. It was a message left asterisk by asterisk Erin. She knew the building's weaknesses. What if she wasn't the victim of a kidnapping? What if Erin Miller orchestrated her own disappearance? The thought was radical, but it fit the pieces together in a way nothing else had. Erin staged the blackout. Erin knew about the slow alarms. Erin cut the camera feed, or had someone do it for her. She had made it look like a violent abduction, A perfect crime, but left just enough breadcrumbs for the right person to follow. Not a cry for help, but a challenge. A puzzle for the police to solve while she slipped away. The question was no longer asterisk, who asterisk took Erin Miller? But asterisk, why asterisk did Erin Miller run? What was she running from that was so terrifying? She had to orchestrate a disappearing act from the 45th floor of a skyscraper in the middle of the night. The case had just cracked wide open. Laura Bishop wasn't looking for a victim anymore. She was hunting for a ghost. Thank you so much for watching. This case is full of twists and turns, and we've only just scratched the surface. If you have theories about why Erin might have disappeared, drop them in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for part 2 of this investigation. We'll see you next time. The investigation into Erin's tragic fall took an unexpected turn when detectives shifted their focus across the street. Its upper floors offered a clear, unobstructed view of Erin's office, and more importantly, the rooftop where she was last seen. The team requested access to Levinson's security camera footage, hoping for a different angle, a new perspective on the events of that fateful night. As they meticulously combed through the recordings, their patience paid off. There, at precisely 10:04 p.m., during the citywide blackout, a subtle anomaly caught their eye. It was a moving light, a beam from what looked like a flashlight, sweeping back and forth across the Hawthorne building's rooftop. This was the first concrete piece of evidence that someone else might have been up there with Erin. The detectives knew they were onto something significant. They requested the highest resolution version of the footage and began the painstaking process of zooming in and enhancing the image. Frame by frame, the reflection became clearer, less of a ghost and more of a figure. What emerged was a silhouette, a dark shape standing near the edge of the roof, right where Erin's body had been found. Immediately, they compared the silhouette to Erin's known physical description. The differences were stark and undeniable. This figure was not Erin's height. They were shorter, more compact. The shoulders were noticeably broader, suggesting a more muscular build. Most strikingly, the figure was wearing something reflective as safety vest. It's a kind typically worn by construction or maintenance workers. It glowed faintly as the flashlight beam moved. This wasn't Erin. Someone else had been on that roof. The presence of a person in a safety vest led the investigation down a new, logical path. The detectives contacted the Hawthorne Building's management to inquire about their maintenance schedule for the night of the incident. Was there any planned work on the roof? The answer was a firm and unequivocal no. The building's maintenance team confirmed that no workers, either internal staff or external contractors, were scheduled to be on site, let alone on the roof, after 7 p.m. that night. The rule was strict. The building was supposed to be empty of all non-tenant personnel. This information intensified the mystery. If no one was supposed to be there, who was the figure in the safety vest? The building's management team, now deeply concerned, began reviewing their own records, cross-referencing their list of approved contractors with employee logs from that day. A discrepancy quickly emerged. One of their subcontractors, a man named David Rice, had been a no-show for work ever since the morning after the power outage. He hadn't called in sick, hadn't answered his phone, and hadn't responded to any messages. He had simply vanished. David Rice immediately became a person of interest. The police launched a comprehensive background check on him, digging into his employment history and personal life. The search revealed a troubling pattern. Rice had been terminated from 2 previous jobs, both for serious misconduct. The details weren't specified in the initial report, but it painted a picture of a man with a history of not following rules and potential conflict. He wasn't just a missing worker, he was a missing worker with a problematic past. The detectives then turned their attention back to the Hawthorne Building's own security footage. They scoured the recordings from the night of the blackout, looking for any sign of David Rice, and they found him at 10:22 p.m. Just 18 minutes after the flashlight was spotted on the roof, and shortly after power was restored. Security cameras captured Rice's pickup truck exiting the Hawthorne garage. The footage was grainy, but the truck's license plate was legible, confirming the vehicle belonged to Rice. As they analyzed the clip, they noticed something else. The passenger side window was slightly down, and through the glass, you could just make out an object sitting on the passenger seat. It was metallic, with a tag attached. With digital enhancement, they were able to read the label on the tag. It was a maintenance key. The words printed clearly on the tag were roof access. This was the smoking gun. David Rice, a contractor with a history of misconduct, who wasn't supposed to be in the building, was seen leaving the premises just minutes after an unidentified figure was spotted on the roof with Erin, and in his possession was the key to the very place where the tragedy occurred. The narrative had shifted completely. This was no longer just a tragic accident or a desperate act. This was now a homicide investigation, and the detectives had their prime suspect. The manhunt for David Rice began in earnest. An all-points bulletin was issued, and his face was circulated to law enforcement agencies across the state. They tracked his last known address, an apartment on the outskirts of the city, but found it empty. Neighbors hadn't seen him in days. His phone was off, his credit cards were inactive. He had gone completely off the grid. While the search for Rice continued, the forensic team re-examined the rooftop, now looking for evidence that pointed to a struggle or the presence of another individual. They combed every inch of the gravel, the air conditioning units, and the parapet wall. Underneath a loose section of roofing tar near the edge, a technician found something glinting in the sunlight. It was a small silver button, the kind found on the cuff of a work jacket. It didn't match anything Erin was wearing. They bagged it and sent it immediately to the lab for analysis, hoping for a DNA match to their fugitive. Simultaneously, the digital forensics unit was working on Rice's work computer from the contractor's office. They were looking for any digital trail emails, search histories, or deleted files that might reveal a motive or a connection to Erin. What they found was chilling. In the weeks leading up to the blackout, Rice's search history was filled with inquiries about Erin. He had looked up her professional bio, her social media profiles, and articles about her recent promotion. He seemed to have developed an obsession. But why? What was the connection? The answer lay buried in Rice's personnel file. A year prior, Erin, in her capacity as a rising executive, had overseen a major facilities review. That review had led to the company terminating a contract with a cleaning service for poor performance. David Rice had been a supervisor at that cleaning service. His termination for misconduct at his next job followed shortly after. He blamed Erin for the downward spiral his career had taken. He believed she had ruined his life. The motive was now clear: revenge. The blackout provided the perfect cover. Rice, using his old contractor's knowledge of the building and a stolen key, saw an opportunity. Knowing she likely waited for Erin, knowing she often worked late, he could confront her on the isolated rooftop hidden by the darkness. The flashlight, the safety vestite, was all part of his ruse to move around the building without arousing suspicion if he were seen. The pieces were all falling into place. The manhunt intensified as the case against Rice solidified. The story hit the news, and Rice's photo was everywhere. Tips began pouring in. A truck driver reported seeing a pickup matching the description at a remote gas station 2 states away. A motel clerk thought she recognized the man who paid for a room in cash. The net was closing. Finally, a patrol officer in a small, rural town noticed a truck parked behind an abandoned warehouse that matched the APB. As he approached, he saw a figure inside. It was David Rice. He surrendered without a fight. The anger and obsession that had driven him to the rooftop seemed to have evaporated, replaced by the quiet desperation of a man who knew he had been caught. In his possession, they found a work jacket with a missing silver button on the cuff. The case was closed. Erin's family would have justice, but the tragedy served as a dark reminder of how a hidden grievance, left to fester in the shadows, could erupt into such devastating violence. Thank you so much for joining us for this gripping story. If you found this case as compelling as we did, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into complex investigations. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. We'll see you in the next video. For the next 48 hours, the entire building was a hive of activity. Search teams, a blur of uniforms and determined faces, methodically swept through every single level. They checked every office, every closet, every forgotten corner. From the echoing parking garage in the basement to the windswept rooftop, they interviewed everyone who was in the building that night, piecing together a timeline that was frustratingly full of holes. But after 2 full days of relentless searching, the result was the same: absolutely no sign of Erin. It was as if she had simply evaporated into thin air within the glass and steel walls of the skyscraper. The building had swallowed her whole. The search expanded, moving from the concrete labyrinth of the city to the cold, dark waters that surround it. A patrol drone, one of the many eyes in the sky scanning the city's arteries, was making a routine pass over the East River. Its high-resolution camera caught a brief, sharp glint of light near the muddy shoreline, something small and metallic nestled among the rocks and debris. A team was dispatched immediately. They carefully recovered the object. It was a delicate silver bracelet. And there, etched into a small charm, were the initials E.C. Erin's bracelet.
Ow.
It was a heartbreaking discovery, a tiny piece of her life found far from where she was last seen. They searched for hours, their powerful lights cutting through the darkness, but they found nothing else. The river held its secrets close, offering only this one solitary clue before falling silent again. For most of the department, the discovery of the bracelet was a grim punctuation mark. The case was turning cold, another tragedy in a city that has too many. But Detective Bishop, she wasn't ready to let go. Something about the whole situation felt wrong, profoundly off. It was too clean, too simple. People don't just disappear from a secure high-rise and leave a single poetic clue by the river. Her gut, honed by years of walking the city's darkest streets, was screaming that the answer wasn't in the river, but back in the building where it all began. She refused to close the case file. Instead, she started digging deeper, convinced the building itself held the key. She began pulling every record she could find: maintenance logs, HVAC schedules, elevator usage reports. She was looking for something out of place, an anomaly that everyone else had missed. Then she found it. A discrepancy buried in the maintenance records. Digital footprint. The ID badge belonging to Rice, the man Erin was supposed to meet, had been used to enter the building again. Not on the night Erin vanished, but 2 full days asterisk after asterisk. Bishop's heart hammered in her chest. She pulled up the time log, 3:17 a.m., the middle of the night. She immediately went to the security guard who had been on duty. The old guard, a man who prided himself on knowing every creak and groan of the building, was adamant. He swore on his career that no one had come through the lobby that night. He remembered it clearly. It was a quiet shift, nothing unusual. Didn't see Rice. He didn't see anyone. Yet, the electronic record was undeniable. Rice's badge had swiped in. It was a direct contradiction, a ghost in the machine. How could a man enter a building without being seen by the guard sitting right at the entrance? This contradiction sent Bishop spiraling down a new rabbit hole. She started to suspect that the building's digital infrastructure was just as important as its physical one. She dove into the server logs, the complex web of data that recorded every digital handshake within the building's network. And that's when she found the second anomaly, the one that made the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. In the security system's access log for the night Erin disappeared, there was a glaring gap. The footage from the 34th floor, specifically from 10 o'clock p.m. to 10:20 p.m., was gone. Just a blank space where there should have been a recording of Erin stepping out of the elevator. But it wasn't just missing, it had been actively deleted. The log showed that someone had logged into the system using a high-level administrative account, a digital skeleton key. The username was simple and chilling: admin override. Someone with the highest level of access had deliberately erased the 20 most critical minutes of the entire investigation. It wasn't a glitch. It was a calculated, precise act of concealment. This person didn't just have physical access to the building. They had control over its memory, its digital consciousness. They could manipulate its reality, erasing people and events from the official record as if they never happened. This changed everything. It wasn't just a simple missing person case anymore. This was something far more sophisticated, far more sinister. The killer, or the kidnapper, wasn't just a person. They were a ghost in the machine, able to move through the building's digital and physical spaces completely unseen. Hey, they could be anywhere, and they could be anyone. Detective Bishop sat back in her chair, the glow of the monitor illuminating her face. The hum of the server room was the only sound. All the pieces were swirling in her mind: the disappearance, the bracelet, Rice's ghost-like entry, the deleted footage. A pattern was emerging, one that was deeply unsettling. The building wasn't just a passive crime scene, it was an active participant. Its systems manipulated to create a perfect illusion. It was both the cage and the key. Bishop picked up her pen, and opened her worn leather notebook. She paused for a moment, thinking, then wrote down a single, chilling sentence. A thought that would guide the rest of her investigation, she wrote. The building remembers more than the people inside it, and she knew. With a certainty that settled deep in her bones, that to find Erin, she would have to learn to speak the building's language. We'd have to uncover the memories that had been so carefully buried in its wires and code. This revelation put Detective Bishop on a completely new path. She was no longer just a homicide detective. She was becoming a digital archaeologist, sifting through layers of code and data to uncover a hidden truth. She brought in a specialist, a cybersecurity expert, who owed her a favor. Together, they started to map out the building's entire digital nervous system. They found backdoors, hidden access points, and lines of code that seemed to operate on their own schedule, independent of the main system. It became clear that the building's security was a facade. Beneath the surface of swipe cards and cameras was a shadow network, a secret infrastructure that someone was using with masterful skill. The admin override account was the key, but its tracks were incredibly well hidden, routed through a complex series of proxy servers that made tracing it almost impossible. Meanwhile, Bishop decided to reinvestigate Rice. The ghost-like entry into the building was too suspicious to ignore. When she went to his apartment to question him again, she found it empty. His neighbors said he'd packed a bag and left in a hurry 2 days ago, right after Bishop first questioned him. He was running. This confirmed her suspicion that he was involved, but she didn't believe he was the mastermind. The technical skill required to manipulate the building's systems was far beyond that of a simple corporate executive. Rice was a pawn, not the king. But who was he running from? And what did he know that made him so terrified? Bishop realized she wasn't just chasing a suspect. She was stepping into a conflict that had been playing out in the shadows, and Erin had been caught in the middle. The building wasn't just a scene of a crime, it was the battlefield. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into this puzzling case. The story's far from over. What secrets are hidden in the building's code? And who is the ghost in the machine pulling all the strings? If you have theories, I'd love to read them in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed this, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next chapter of the investigation. We have a lot more to uncover. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving back into a case that has left everyone with more questions than answers. The baffling disappearance of Erin. If you haven't seen our first video, I highly recommend checking it out to get the full backstory, but for now, let's recap. Erin, a bright and ambitious professional, vanished from her high-rise office building during a sudden citywide blackout. The initial investigation hit a wall. There was no footage, no witnesses, just an eerie silence where a vibrant life used to be. The prime suspect, David Rice, a quiet maintenance worker, seemed to have an alibi and no clear motive. The case went cold, leaving her family, friends, and the entire city grasping for any clue, any hope of finding her. For 2 long, agonizing weeks, the investigation felt like it was treading water. The police had interviewed everyone, combed through every inch of the building they could access, and analyzed every piece of digital communication Erin had. Yet nothing. It was as if she had simply ceased to exist the moment the lights went out. The media frenzy was relentless, with every news outlet and online forum buzzing with theories. Is it a random act of violence? A planned abduction? Or did Erin simply decide to walk away from her life? The public's imagination ran wild, but for Detective Bishop, who was leading the case, speculation wasn't enough. He needed facts, solid evidence that could cut through the noise. He kept returning to the scene, walking the floors, trying to see what everyone had missed. The building itself felt like a silent accomplice, holding its secrets within its steel and glass frame. The frustration was palpable, not just for the police, but for Erin's loved ones, who were living every family's worst nightmare. Each day that passed without a lead felt like an eternity, the hope that had once burned brightly beginning to dim into a flicker. Then, just when it seemed like the trail had gone completely cold, a crucial piece of the puzzle arrived. It came in an unassuming email from the elevator company. Attached was the diagnostic data report from the night of the blackout. For Bishop, this was the breakthrough he'd been waiting for. The data was dense, a complex series of codes and timestamps. But it held the digital footprint of every elevator's movement during those critical moments. He and his team spent hours poring over the information, cross-referencing times with the known timeline of the power outage. They traced the paths of all 20 elevators in the skyscraper, one by one. Most had behaved as expected, either stopping at the nearest floor or returning to the lobby, but one of them was different. The data showed that during that crucial 6-minute window of total darkness, a single elevator, designated Elevator C, had come to a halt. It wasn't at a floor, but suspended in the void between the 31st and 32nd floors. This was it. This was the anomaly. A jolt of adrenaline shot through the investigative team. This was the first concrete lead they'd had in 2 weeks. An elevator stuck in the dark, high above the city streets. What happened inside that metal box? Bishop knew with a chilling certainty that they were finally on the right track. The next piece of information from the report was even more significant. The logs showed that the doors of Elevator C had been opened. Not by a remote system, not by a rescue crew, but manually, from the inside. Someone inside that trapped elevator had pried the doors open while it was stranded between floors. This wasn't a standard safety feature easily accessible to just any passenger. It required a special key or specific knowledge of the elevator's mechanics. Suddenly, the focus shifted from a simple case of a person being trapped to something much more deliberate. Who had the skill and the nerve to do that in complete darkness, suspended hundreds of feet in the air? The team immediately secured a warrant to inspect Elevator C when they finally got inside. The scene was eerily sterile, almost staged. The air was still, and there was no immediate sign of chaos. But in one corner, folded with an almost military precision, was a maintenance vest. And lying right beside it, glinting under the forensic team's lights, was Erin's missing ID badge. The discovery of the vest and the ID badge was a turning point. It physically linked the scene to both Erin and someone from the maintenance staff. Bishop's mind immediately went back to David Rice, the quiet man who had been on duty that night. A quick forensic analysis of the vest confirmed his suspicion. DNA and fibers on the vest belonged to Rice. It was his. The connection was now undeniable. He was there, in that elevator, with Erin. But the scene didn't paint the picture of a violent abduction that everyone had assumed. There was no trace of a struggle, no overturned items, no scuff marks, no signs of panic. The forensics team swept every surface for blood, but found none. It was clean, too clean. It was as if whatever had happened in that confined space was calm, almost peaceful. The neatly folded vest wasn't the act of a frantic kidnapper. It suggested someone who was methodical, unhurried, and in complete control. The scene was a paradox, a mix of incriminating evidence and a baffling lack of violence. This is where the story takes a turn that no one saw coming. While processing the scene, the forensics team made another critical discovery. This time on Erin's phone, which had been found with her badge. They found a single, clear fingerprint on the screen that didn't belong to her. When they ran it through the database, it was a direct match. David Rice. This placed his hand directly on her phone, but was he taking it from her? Deleting something? The lack of any other signs of a struggle made that seem unlikely, but the biggest bombshell was yet to come. The investigation expanded to the entire building, including areas previously overlooked. One team was sent to the roof, a place generally inaccessible to tenants. And there, on the emergency stairwell handle leading down from the roof access door, they found another fingerprint. It was a perfect match. David Rice. He had been on the roof. And the only way down from there, other than the elevators which weren't working, was the emergency stairs. The same stairs that passed by every floor, including the 31st and 32nd. A new timeline began to form in Detective Bishop's mind, a theory so counterintuitive that it had been dismissed from the start. He pieced it all together. Rice, using his maintenance key, stops the elevator between floors. He opens the doors. He leads Erin out, not into a hallway, but into the dark, cavernous elevator shaft. Using his knowledge of the building, he guides her up the maintenance ladder inside the shaft, a hidden pathway known only to staff. They emerge on the 32nd floor, or perhaps even go all the way to the roof. He leaves his vest behind, a deliberate shedding of his identity as a simple maintenance worker. He touches her phone, maybe to turn it off, maybe to leave a clue. Then he leads her to the emergency stairs. The final piece clicked into place for Bishop with a startling clarity. He hadn't dragged her away against her will. The evidence, or lack thereof, pointed to an entirely different and more disturbing conclusion. David Rice had led her, and Erin had followed. This realization changed the entire complexion of the case. It was no longer a story of a predator and a victim in the traditional sense, but something more complex, more psychological. Why would Erin, a smart and capable woman, willingly follow a maintenance worker into the darkness of an elevator shaft during a blackout? What could he have said to her?
Ow!
What power did he hold over her? The investigation now pivoted from a search for a violent criminal to a deep dive into the lives of both Erin and David Rice. Who was he, really, behind that quiet facade? And what secrets was Erin hiding that would lead her to take such an inexplicable risk? The neatly folded vest, the lack of a struggle, the fingerprint on the stairwell handle, it all pointed to a planned consensual act. Not an abduction, but an escape. The question was no longer just where is Erin, but why did she go with him? The mystery of her disappearance had only deepened, spiraling into a psychological puzzle that was far more intricate than anyone could have ever imagined. The empty elevator, suspended in the dark, wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of a far more enigmatic one. What do you think happened? Did Rice manipulate her, or were they partners in a plan we can't yet comprehend? This case is far from over, and every new detail just adds another layer of mystery. Let us know your theories in the comments below. We read every single one, and your insights are always fascinating. If you're as captivated by this case as we are, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next update. We'll be digging deeper into the backgrounds of both Erin and David Rice, and you won't want to miss what we uncover. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Have you ever heard of the Hawthorne Building? It's one of those imposing, almost fortress-like structures you find in the heart of a city. A place with a history etched into its very stone. But some histories are buried deeper than others. This is the story of Erin Cole, an ambitious auditor whose final audit took place within those walls, and how a simple power outage led to a mystery that would puzzle investigators for years. Our story begins on a stormy Tuesday evening. Erin Cole was known for her meticulous nature, the kind of person who double-checks everything. She was wrapping up a late-night audit on the top floor of the Hawthorne Building. The city lights twinkled below, a stark contrast to the storm clouds gathering overhead. She was last seen by the night security guard David Rice, packing her things, ready to head home. She stepped into the elevator, pressed the button for the ground floor, and the doors slid shut. That was the last time anyone officially saw her alive. The next morning, Erin's colleagues noticed her absence. It was completely out of character. She wasn't the type to miss a meeting, let alone vanish without a word. Her car was still in the parking garage. Calls to her phone went straight to voicemail. The police were called in, and Detective Bishop was assigned to the case. The initial search of the Hawthorne Building turned up nothing. Her office was just as she'd left it, except for her missing office bag and notebook. It was as if she had simply evaporated between the top floor and the lobby. Detective Bishop started with the only witness, David Rice, the security guard. David was cooperative, but his story was simple, almost too simple. He saw Ms. Cole get into the elevator around 9 p.m. Shortly after, a powerful lightning strike hit nearby, causing a building-wide power outage. The backup generators kicked in within seconds, but for a brief moment, the entire building was plunged into darkness. David claimed he did a full sweep of the building after the power returned, checking every floor. He said he didn't see anyone, and assumed Erin had already left before the outage. It seemed plausible, an elevator jam, a quick exit down the stairs. But where did she go? Weeks turned into months. The case grew colder. The media frenzy died down, and Erin Cole's disappearance became another unsolved file in a cabinet. A ghost story whispered in the hallways of the Hawthorne Building. Her family was devastated, left with no answers, no closure, just a gaping hole where a loved one used to be. Detective Bishop, however, couldn't let it go. There was a loose thread, something about David Rice's story that felt incomplete. The building itself seemed to be holding its breath, guarding a secret. Then, 3 months later, came the breakthrough. The Hawthorne Building was undergoing renovations, a project to modernize its aging infrastructure. In the sub-basement, a level even deeper than the public parking garage, workers were tasked with clearing out old storage. Behind a row of rusted lockers, they found something odd, A wall that didn't match the blueprints. It looked newer, hastily plastered over. Curiosity piqued. They broke through the plaster and discovered a heavy steel door, sealed shut. It wasn't on any modern schematic. With the pull of a crowbar, the door creaked open, revealing a dusty, forgotten corridor. It led to an old storm shelter, a relic from a bygone era, unused since the 1990s. The air was stale, thick with the scent of concrete and time. And there in the center of the room, sitting on a dilapidated chair as if waiting for its owner to return, was Erin Cole's office bag. The discovery sent a jolt through the investigation. Detective Bishop was on the scene within the hour. The bag was undisturbed. She carefully opened it, and inside, she found Erin's notebook. It was open to the last page she had written on. There was just a single, chilling line written in her familiar. Neat handwriting. The lights went out, but he said it was safe. That one sentence changed everything. It could only be one person. David Rice. The storm shelter wasn't a random discovery. It was the final piece of the puzzle. Bishop and her team pored over the building's original archived blueprints from the 1950s, the ones predating modern renovations. What they found was astonishing. The building had a hidden network of service corridors and stairwells, designed for maintenance and emergency access, long since sealed and forgotten. And Erin's final path from the top-floor elevator shaft down a series of these hidden stairwells and into that sub-basement storm shelter matched these old blueprints exactly. Confronted with this new evidence, the bag, the note, the blueprints, David Rice's calm demeanor finally shattered. His story began to unravel. He confessed, but not to murder. He claimed it was a tragic accident. When the power failed, the elevator did jam. He used his master key to open the doors on a service floor, intending to help her get out. He led her into what he thought was a standard fire escape stairwell. But in the pitch-black darkness, he misjudged. It wasn't a normal stairwell. It was one of the old, decommissioned ones. He heard her cry out, followed by a sickening thud. She had fallen down the unlit, unfamiliar flight of stairs. In the terrifying silence that followed, David panicked. He wasn't a monster, he insisted, just a man paralyzed by fear. He feared losing his job, being blamed for her death. So he made a fateful decision. He didn't call for help. He didn't report the accident. Instead, he went down to the sub-basement, found the storm shelter corridor she had inadvertently fallen into, and sealed the door from the outside. He entombed her, and the secret, hoping it would never be found. Erin Cole's remains were never recovered from the depths of that stairwell. The area was deemed too structurally unsafe to excavate fully. But the truth, or at least David Rice's version of it, was out. Or sealed the door out of fear. A single act of cowardice that led to a 3-month mystery and a lifetime of unanswered questions for Erin's family. In her final report, Detective Bishop wrote a single, poignant sentence that perfectly captured the essence of the tragedy. The power failed, but the system didn't. The people did. The building's emergency systems, even the forgotten ones, had a purpose. But human error, fear, and a desperate attempt to cover up a mistake led to a far greater tragedy than a simple power outage ever could. The Hawthorne building still stands today, a silent monument to the secrets it once held, and to the woman who vanished within its walls. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. If you found this story as haunting as I did, please hit that like button. Consider subscribing for more true stories and unsolved mysteries.
Oh.
Let me know in the comments what you think happened in those final moments. And as always, stay curious.